Maps of Orientation, Civilization, and Collective Life. Volume 2 of the Maps of Orientation series. In Maps of Orientation, the Human Terrain, we explored the inner landscape of human experience, awareness, identity, belief, meaning, love, mortality, and the psychological realities that shape individual lives. This second volume turns outward. If the first book asked, "What is it like to be human?" this one asks, "What is it like to live together?" Why do human beings form tribes and nations? Why do intelligent people disagree about society? How do stories, beliefs, and identities bind millions of strangers into shared realities? What allows trust, cooperation, and institutions to endure across generations? And what physical foundations make civilization itself possible? Maps of Orientation. Civilization and Collective Life is a guided exploration of the layers beneath the world we inhabit together. Beginning with human sociality and belonging, it journeys through moral intuition, collective identity, shared narratives, institutions, incentives, energy, complexity, and the recurring patterns of history. Along the way, familiar realities, money, law, governments, organizations, markets, and cultures, are revealed not as isolated phenomena, but as interconnected parts of a larger civilizational landscape. Written in a calm, reflective style, this book is neither a political argument nor a historical survey. It is an attempt to cultivate perspective. Rather than telling readers what to think, it offers a framework for seeing more clearly how human beings create shared worlds, how those worlds endure, and what responsibilities accompany our participation in them. Together, the Human Terrain and Civilization and Collective Life form two complementary maps. The first explores the inner realities of human experience. The second explores the collective realities that emerge when human beings live, learn, cooperate, and build together across time. This is not a book about predicting the future. It is a book about understanding the world we have inherited and learning how to carry it more consciously. Introduction. Why we need maps for civilization. Most fish probably do not spend much time thinking about water, not because water is unimportant, because it is everywhere. It surrounds them so completely that it becomes invisible. Something similar may be true of civilization. Most of us spend our lives thinking about our families, our work, our relationships, our hopes, our disappointments, and our plans for the future. We think about the immediate realities of our lives. We think about what happened yesterday and what might happen tomorrow. Much less often do we stop to think about the strange and remarkable thing within which all of those experiences occur. Civilization. We wake each morning inside a world of roads, buildings, laws, markets, hospitals, schools, power grids, digital networks, financial systems, languages, traditions, and institutions. We exchange pieces of paper or electronic symbols for food. We trust strangers to prepare our meals, maintain the electrical grid, inspect bridges, deliver medicine, fly aircraft, and sustain systems we barely understand. Most of the time, none of this feels extraordinary. It feels normal. And that may be precisely why it deserves our attention. Because what feels normal is often what we understand least. Consider something as simple as breakfast. The food may have been grown hundreds or thousands of miles away by people you will never meet. The coffee may have crossed oceans. The electricity powering the kitchen may have originated from sources you have never seen. The money used to purchase the meal has value only because millions of other people collectively agree that it does. Yet most mornings we simply eat breakfast. Not because these systems are simple, but because they work. Civilization often disappears from view precisely because it functions. The most important structures in our lives are frequently the least noticed. We tend to notice breakdowns, delays, conflicts, failures. We notice the bridge when traffic stops, the power grid when the lights go out, trust when it is broken. The systems that quietly support everyday life often fade into the background. And so we live surrounded by extraordinary achievements that have become ordinary. This book begins with a simple observation. The closer we look at civilization, the stranger it becomes. How do millions of strangers cooperate? How does trust extend beyond people we personally know? How does knowledge survive generations? How do stories bind societies together? How does a nation exist? Why does money work? How do institutions remember? How do civilizations endure? The deeper we look, the more these familiar realities begin to resemble mysteries hiding in plain sight. This is a book about looking beneath the surface. Many public conversations focus on events, headlines, elections, conflicts, crises, debates. Those things matter, but they are often the visible waves on the surface of a much deeper ocean. Beneath them lie questions that are older, slower, and more enduring. What kind of creatures are human beings? Why do we form tribes? How do we learn what to value? Why do intelligent people disagree so profoundly? How do shared beliefs emerge? How do civilizations coordinate? What role do energy, infrastructure, and complexity play in making modern life possible? What patterns keep reappearing throughout history? And what wisdom emerges from seeing these realities more clearly? These questions may seem unrelated at first. They are not. Together they form a map. Not a map of geography, a map of collective life, a map of how human beings create worlds together. The goal of this book is not to tell you what to think. It is not an argument for a particular ideology. It is not a manifesto. It is not a prediction. It is an exploration, an attempt to look carefully at the forces that allow millions, and eventually billions, of human beings to cooperate, compete, create, organize, believe, remember, and build. The deeper we look, the more difficult it becomes to separate the visible world from the invisible structures beneath it. A nation cannot be touched. A corporation cannot be held in your hand. Money is more than paper. Trust is invisible. Institutions remember things no individual remembers. Stories shape behavior. Ideas travel across generations. Civilizations emerge from interactions among people who understand only a tiny fraction of the systems in which they participate. And yet somehow, much of the time, it works. Not perfectly, not permanently, not without conflict, fragility, or failure, but often well enough to sustain one of the most remarkable achievements in the known universe. Large numbers of conscious beings cooperating across time. The journey that follows will move through several layers of that achievement. We will begin with the human beings who create civilization. We will explore the lenses through which they perceive reality. We will examine the stories, beliefs, and identities that bind them together. We will investigate the trust, institutions, and incentives that make cooperation durable. We will descend beneath those social realities to the material foundations of energy, complexity, and constraint. And finally, we will step back and ask what wisdom emerges from seeing civilization as a whole. The goal is not certainty. If anything, the journey may produce the opposite: a greater appreciation for complexity, a greater awareness of trade-offs, a deeper recognition of how much remains beyond our understanding, but perhaps something equally valuable as well: perspective, humility, gratitude, a clearer sense of what it means to participate in a reality that none of us created, all of us inherit, and each of us help shape. We inherit a world we did not build, a world of stories, institutions, markets, laws, technologies, beliefs, identities. Most of us spend our lives navigating these realities without fully understanding how they came to exist. This book is an invitation to look more closely, to move beneath the surface, to examine the forces that allow human beings to create, sustain, and inherit civilization. Not because understanding civilization guarantees wisdom, but because it may help us participate in it more consciously. The journey begins with a simple question: what kind of creatures build worlds like these?